Okay, this short video is about looking at the last question of the paper. Now, every year there have been papers which have had the same sort of style of question. The last question is always a 10-mark question. It's always about external influences on the business. Okay, now over the last couple of years they've asked questions about technological effects on the firm, environmental issues affecting the firm, ethical issues affecting the firm, political and legal issues, and economic ones. So if I literally show you the past paper questions, over the last 2 years we've had all of these issues appearing. What you might notice is that the same topics tended not to come up in the same year. So we have an exam in the January and we have another one in the June. So in the January, last year they asked about technological, environmental and legal, and those things didn't appear again in the June exam. Okay, so on that basis it makes sense for us to think, well, this year in the January exam economic and environmental issues appeared, so it's likely they're not going to appear in the June exam. Okay, so narrowing our sort of field down, I reckon we could get a few questions on social issues affecting the business, maybe technological issues affecting the business, ethical, and then maybe political stroke legal issues. If I was going to pick any in particular, I'd go for social and technological. So in preparation for this last question, you need to know enough about those issues affecting skyburst so you can actually talk about that when you're answering the questions about the fireworks company in the exam. Okay, just pause there for a second. So I suspect that this question or something very, very similar to it will come up in your paper in June, and you need to be prepared to answer it. Okay, so the question is likely to look like this: using your research of a business in your area, that's skyburst, evaluate which of these external factors will have greatest impact on the fireworks company. Social issues, technological issues, ethical and legal, and a 10 marker. Okay, so if we have a look now at the case study, we can try and pick out those topics. I'm not going to read the whole thing through, but you do need to read the whole thing through, get to know it as well as you possibly can. So Skyburst Illuminations Limited, it's got a number of issues going on, and when you look at the sort of social issues, I'd say that it's worth noting that human resources, where they're employing more and more part-time staff working as subcontractors, there's a bit of a social issue there, in that in Britain we've had since the 1980s a lot more people working part-time and working temporary. So because of the nature of Skyburst, they have to employ people part-time and temporary, because they have these peaks and troughs of very, very busy times around the fireworks night, November, Diwali, which I think is December, and Christmas time, and New Year's Eve. Very, very high demand during those times, lots of public displays going off, and Skyburst Illuminations run those displays and need lots of staff during that time. They also do displays throughout the year, and during those times they would also use maybe 5-10 people to run these large displays, the sort of thing you might get on Bristol Downs on fireworks night, where you've got quite a large organisation, a lot of preparation involved, and quite a lot of people involved on the night to make sure that everything's run safely. So they need to employ lots of part-time staff, and they need to employ lots of temporary staff working on subcontracts, so that they can keep their staff costs as low as possible, but still have good quality staff. Now, the trend in Britain to more people to be working on those temporary and part-time basis is a social trend, and it helps Skyburst find the right sort of people who are quite used to working on those sorts of terms. He's also, though, going to manage staff carefully to keep them motivated and keen to work for him on flexible contracts. And nobody wants to work on a 0 hours contract or a temporary contract. It makes your life very difficult in terms of getting in terms of getting mortgages, in terms of getting loans. So if you're going to take a job on that basis and stay with that company, then they've got to offer you something. And Skyburst tries to make sure that they get to know their staff really well and offer them in a sort of exciting and enjoyable job which they're proud to take part in. So with Alan, in the case of Skyburst, he takes time to get to know staff well personally and build up some loyalty and pride amongst his employees, who are mostly fireworks enthusiasts. So they, as he did, started off doing this as a hobby, and then it develops into a job. So those are sort of social changes, that it's now easier for him to employ people on these short-term temporary contracts. It's also worth noting here that there's some legal issues. So he's got to invest time to make sure that temporary staff are fully trained in current health and safety regulations. Those can change at any time. Now, he's going to be very up to date in terms of understanding what the law requires, but he'll have then to train the people who work for him to make sure that they are as equally up to date. Okay, so you've got some social issues and you've got some legal issues there. Okay. So keep on scrolling down and it'll flip over the page onto the second page, and you've got other issues. Again, legal issues here, I think. When they're running professional displays, they offer the chance of large-scale events going off, like the Bristol Balloon Fiesta will have a big firework display each year at the end of the event, and lots of big sort of musical festivals. Those will have fireworks finishing them off, and those sorts of professional displays can be run by Skyburst, doing all the planning, making sure that they've put together a display which is all timed to music, but there's also lots of legal issues there. You've got sight and noise restrictions affecting locations. You've got to do complete risk assessments and tidy up after ourselves, meaning we can rest assured that the display is safe and professionally carried out. So Skyburst offer all of those legal requirements to be taken care of, especially important given the events in Taunton a couple of years ago, when the smoke created by a fireworks display drifted over a motorway which was close by the venue, and caused a crash which actually resulted in several people's deaths. Now, because of those sorts of events happening, risk assessments are really important, and Skyburst can look after that legal requirement. Also, some technological issues mentioned here. They design their displays using the latest software and then fire them using the latest hardware. Pyro-digital displays give the illusion that the fireworks are dancing to the beat of music. Now, those sorts of computerized events, linking in computer software with hardware, which then can remotely then allow fireworks to be remotely set off by somebody standing at a safe distance, are relatively modern inventions, and certainly the speed at which music can be run. So you have lights going off, you've got fireworks going off, you've got music very rapidly and changing and it all integrating carefully, is the result of changes in technology. Computers allowing us to have those sorts of effects. So big technological change affecting the industry. Social changes. One of the big markets is for wedding displays. They can be designed around any budget from £100 to several £1,000, and you've got two sort of social issues there. We have weddings in recent years being extremely expensive events. It's on average £15,000 to £20,000 spent on a wedding. So it's a very high profile, very expensive event that people are happy to invest their money in, and that sort of social change means that there's a fairly large market for people who are willing to spend large amounts of money with Skyburst, and that's a potentially lucrative, profitable market. However, in the long run, we know from looking at the data that weddings are on the decline. There are not so many weddings happening over the last few years, and over the course of about 30 years, you can see quite a large drop-off in the number of weddings that are happening. I just draw up a chart here, and you've got the number of weddings happening since the 1940s were something like 450,000 a year. Even as late as 1970s, there were about 425,000 weddings in the UK each year, and then things have changed, and gradually there's been this long-term slump, and the trend is for us to have less and less weddings. If that trend continues, then by the next 20-30 years we might be seeing very, very few weddings. Might be actually be quite an unfashionable thing to do. So long term, that social trend suggests that maybe the wedding market is not the one to get into. Okay, moving on then, you've got ethical issues coming in here. Skyburst sell retail, sell to the public a range of different firework displays, and they make sure that they stock the finest quality fireworks sourced from China and boast a huge range to choose from. Now, quality is an important issue, and you want to offer your customers a high quality product because that's going to build loyalty, but also you've got a responsibility to behave in an ethical way, and you want to give people the chance to enjoy a good event, and that's a sort of ethical responsibility that you're treating your customers fairly. So making sure that your fireworks are high quality is an important part of that. Flipping over onto page 3, you've got another sort of social change. Your wedding events promoted through displays at wedding fairs, and Skyburst advertises the services and products through wedding magazines. It's part of the promotion of what he does, and again, weddings have become such a high-profile, expensive event, even though there are fewer of them these days, that we have these whole shows and magazines dedicated to this particular social phenomenon, and so as a social change, it's provided a way in which Skyburst can reach people who are interested in getting married and spending money on getting married. Moving on down, technological changes again. In terms of operations, in other words, in terms of how the fireworks are made, you've got a number of changes going on here. You've got new technology allowing him to develop firework shells that incorporate a company logo. That's proved very popular with large corporate events, but each display is then made individually. So technological changes means that he can adapt the fireworks which he's buying in from China, adapt them with his own customized products, and put together a display which is more unique and more closely tied in with what the customer is going to enjoy, and do it more cheaply. So that's a technological change. Legal changes are a big part of production, and he's working on customizable shells that can be produced, personalized effects, such as simple logos and pictures, which comply with the British Standards Institute standard BS 7114 for Category 3 fireworks. Now what that means is that those Category 3 fireworks can be sold to the public. So ideally, it's not available yet, but he's working on products that could actually meet the legal requirement to be sold to the public, but are still cheap enough because of technological changes to be made and sold at relatively inexpensive prices. We're still talking about in the hundreds of pounds, but it means that if you can crack that, have fireworks which are really exciting and also tied into what the customer wants, because they're customized, but they don't need to be set off by a professional, so that they can be registered as Category 3, then there's potentially a lot of sales to be had there. A lot of people would like to have that customized effect, but can't afford to have somebody come and set it off for them. So being able to customize smaller scale fireworks and sell them at a slightly lower price could potentially earn him a lot of money. So he's got all these legal issues to navigate, though. They've got to meet the British Standards Institute BS 7114, but they've also got to meet the Category 3 requirements. Also in terms of production, the firework industry is very tightly regulated by the government. All sorts of very detailed rules about how much fireworks can be kept, like in terms of the weight, how long they can be kept, and under what conditions. And they're all controlled by local councils, the trading standards branch of local councils, and various health and safety laws will be overseen by them. They meet safety standards, and they try and do it routinely because it's a major part of the job, and new products require quite a large investment in research and development by Skyburst, making sure that they spend that money in a way that can actually then result in a legal product that can be sold to the public and make them profits, requires quite a lot of thought. So then all stock is stored on the site of the workshop. That's the site in Blagdon. I can't do that sort of storage in the central Bristol because of the planning regulations restricting what the shop can actually hold. You can't have hundreds and hundreds of kilos of high explosives stored in the centre of the city. That wouldn't be allowed under planning regulations. And so they have to have the shop in Bristol. Well, they choose to have the shop in Bristol, but they also have to have the warehouse in Blagdon out of the way of public and out of the position where it might cause danger. Security at the site is tight, given the hazardous nature of the materials, and the workshop can be inspected at any time by the Health and Safety Inspectorate and also the local councils. And then each year they have to apply for a licence from the council in Bristol for the shop and in North Somerset, where Blagdon is, where the workshop's located. And then by making sure that all the standards are fully up to date and all regulations are met, Skyburst has found that insurance is starting to come down for him, which is a positive benefit of making sure that you are fully compliant with all the legal requirements. So another ethical issue here, another increasingly important issue facing the firm is customers' interests in the environment. So a lot of people care about the environment and are persuaded to buy products which are seen to be more environmentally friendly. And until recently that's not been such an issue, but more and more corporate clients are asking whether his materials and products are environmentally friendly because of the issues caused by Chinese lanterns which have been set off and then falling into sort of fields where livestock, cows and sheep are living, and go and eat these paper and wire Chinese lanterns, and that's causing them some injury. There's more awareness of that. Corporate clients don't want to be accused of being irresponsible with the environment, and they want to check to make sure that the fireworks that they set off are equally of a good standard and environmentally friendly. Luckily, he's using biodegradable materials and non-toxic chemicals, and so he's able to reassure customers that, yep, we're an ethical, environmentally friendly product, and as a result, he's more attractive because of that. So actually behaving in an environmentally friendly way has made him more competitive. And now, taking it to the next stage, another aspect of ethics is that he's now looking to ensure stocks bought from these Chinese suppliers are ethically made, so that then he can brand them as being fair trade. So if he can say, I know for sure that these products are made in factories where there's no child labour, there's no forced labour, where people are told they must work more than the standard of the country, so more than, say, 40 hours a week, they are paid at least the minimum wage for that country, then that allows him to say, well, yes, we are observing ethical principles in trading fairly with our suppliers. So moving on then, you've got at the end a load of other sort of facts and figures in terms of how the shop has been bought, etc. But in terms of social, technological, ethical and legal issues, those are the sorts of things, if you highlight them and you summarise them and you get to know them, that you'll be able to add into your final question, and you'll be able to show the examiner exactly what you know. So that's what it's going to look like. Using your research of a business in your area, evaluate which of these external factors will have greatest impact on the fireworks company: social, technological, ethical and legal. It's up to you to decide which one. There's no right or wrong answer about this. I would say social trends are going to have quite a long impact, a big impact in the long term, as the wedding market declines. Technological changes are really quite rapid in the industry, with new computerized effects being possible. Ethical issues are emerging, and they are certainly of a benefit to Skyburst, because they offer him a way in which he can differentiate his product, make a strong, unique selling point so that customers come to him. And then legal issues, yeah, definitely a big issue for the fireworks company, because they have to meet lots of different regulations and make sure that they abide by those rules, because otherwise they could be legally in trouble and have their license taken away. If they have their license taken away, they cannot run professional displays. Without meeting the legal requirements, the business cannot run. So personally, I'd say probably legal issues are the ones which are of greatest importance. Having said that, I've shown you what the questions look like, and you might very well only have a choice of a few to choose from, and you want to be able to sort of argue a little bit about each of these things, and then come up with your own recommendations to which you think is most important. Okay.